And there was a split second where I thought, fucking hell, like I've lost everything. What have I done? Like, is it really worth me living anymore? Like, I can't believe I've done this.
In 2018, you decided to retire, returning to the UK after many years in Malaysia. Can you talk us through what was sort of going on in your career at that point, and how were you dealing with life in general to lead you to making that decision? Because I imagine that couldn't have been easy to step away from the game.
Yeah, it was difficult, mate. Like, when I first signed in Malaysia, I signed for a sort of small team, Sarawak, and then I managed to obviously sign for one of the biggest teams in Southeast Asia, Johor. And I was there for 6 seasons, and the first 2 seasons were great. But when you're at at Johor, it's all about winning. There's a lot of pressure. Even a draw is counted as a loss. And it was it's a great club. The facilities and stuff is an absolute joke. Like, I guarantee even some Premier League clubs won't have the facilities that Johor have. And what the Prince has done for Johor is amazing. But for me personally, I was at a bit of a torrid time because I was riddled with injuries. I had my slip disc, had that operation, come back, like I'd tear my quad, I'd come back from that, I'd have tendonitis on both my knees. And it was just a bit of a torrid time. And it was, I was there for 6 long years, and every season people would ask, Junior's not playing again, bench warmer, etc. But in the background, I was just dealing with so much like stress. I was alone, and I had a great contract, which is obviously I'm very grateful for. But money doesn't buy everything. I was away from my friends and my family for so long, and coming in from games where I could barely walk because of my back, having to take cortisone injections into my spine just to be able to play. And it sort of came to the end of my tether mentally. There was only so much I could take, and I just wanted to go home and just have a break and be with my friends and be with my family, and just sort of refresh my mind mentally, completely out of football. Which was, you said it was a difficult decision at the time, but I felt like it was the right decision, because I felt like if I would have carried on and left Johor and signed to another team, I wouldn't have had that same spark and love that I had coming back into football again. I felt like I needed to fall in love with the game again. I sort of fell out of love completely. Didn't want to go into training because I knew I couldn't, like on the sidelines watching the team, I was just bored and sick. Really, really sick mentally. And, when you start, like I said to you, when you're a kid, you love football, you play every day, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, you don't care. And then when it got to a stage when I decided, I didn't even feel good going into training, it was when I was like, nah, like, I can't do this. I need to go home and be with my family and my friends.
Was there anything that you were scared of though, when you were leaving football, when you're coming back home? I know you said you felt like it was the right thing to do, but was there anything sort of sitting in the back of your mind?
Nah, do you know what? Nothing like that. I was so excited to take a break. I was so excited to take a break and start new opportunities. My personality is I like to have fresh starts and go and have new opportunities. And I decided to try business and have a business venture back home, which was going really well pre-COVID. And then, COVID hit, and I based my life on like 5 pillars in life. So relationships, families, your health, wellness, and families, and like money, obviously finance. And slowly after I retired, these pillars started coming down one by one without me noticing. And then when I lost my last pillar, was when I realized that, oh my God, like what have I done? It sort of makes you look back and reflect on all the money I spunked, on stupid stuff. But when I look back at it, I'm glad I did it, because you learn from these mistakes. And after 2 years of thinking I was financially secure, of investments, etc., losing all this money, I was like, wow, like I'm so far off where I want to be. And I basically had nothing. I went from having everything in my life to having nothing, absolutely nothing.
I've heard you speak about before working on site after that contrast from like playing professionally to then going back to working on site. That whole that whole situation, I imagine that was a very bitter pill to swallow, but equally, do you think it grounded you at all? Because like you said, you didn't realize those pillars were falling down. Did you almost sort of, I know it's obviously not ideal circumstances, but did you need them to come down to realize that there was work to do?
1,000,000%. I feel like everything that happened in my life definitely happened for a reason, because, especially my time at Johor, I definitely lost myself in the sense of I was going out, I was spending my money. I lost who my real mates were. I was making friends with people that wanted me to spend money. Oh yeah, mate, come to this club, we'll get the tables, etc., all this sort of stuff. And I was in that world for a good 5 years, and I was so lost into what was important in my life, which was, my relationship, my family, my friends that actually mean something to me. So especially when I lost everything, I realized who was actually there for me, like really, really there for me. And then, my mate was the one who offered me, this job on the site because, it was good money. He didn't have to, I had no labouring skills whatsoever. And he put me on, a good wage, well enough to be able to survive back in the UK. My best mate put me up in his house, in the room, like these are the things, my ego had to take a battering because I was so egotistical and I lived with my ego, and the ego can be your worst enemy. I didn't think about anything before. And when I managed to, I had complete ego death, I was living in my mate's flat. This is a guy that they've seen, that they used to look up to in the sense of, in the sense of, Junior will look after us, he'll pay for this, he'll pay for that. And I literally couldn't. And I had to take that step back and realize what was important in my life. And it definitely grounded me, mate. It definitely grounded me. Not to say I enjoyed it, but it definitely grounded me.
Of course, yeah. So how did you start to build yourself back up then? Because I imagine your morale would have been pretty low. Like you said, your ego's just been battered. But your ego being battered, that's one of those things sometimes you don't realize that's a good thing until later down the line. So how did you eventually start to build up your own self-confidence and eventually make the decision to start playing again?
Yeah, I mean, it was a breakup that absolutely killed me. The breakup from my last relationship she was my last pillar that I had left, basically, and I didn't realize. And then when she'd left, I was gone. So I moved into my mate's house, and I was absolutely. This is before I started working on site. I did not know what I was doing in my life. And I remember going for a run, and only a few people know this. I ran past the Isha train station, and I was on the bridge at the train station, and there was a split second where I thought, fucking hell, I've lost everything. What have I done? Is it really worth me living anymore? Can't believe I've done this. And then I jogged back home to Ollie's house, Ollie Clement's house. I jogged back to his, and I sat underneath a tree for a good hour, and just reflected on everything. And then I started working, and I made that decision then and there to start working with a life coach, Josh Connolly, who was recommended to me before from one of my good friends, Ollie Scott. And he's amazing, completely amazing. And I remember messaging him, telling him about my suicidal thoughts. And he said, I don't think I'm the guy that you should be speaking to about this, because, he's a life coach. He's not, someone that deals with suicide, etc. He said, here's a number that you can speak to. And I said, nah, I want to speak to you. So I felt comfortable with him. I knew him from before, and I knew that he could help me with what he's been through in his past, and where he's come.
Yeah.
So I started working with him, and from then forward, he sort of built my confidence up. We stripped back everything. From my childhood trauma to what I went through in my relationship, why I did the things I did. And it was never, I didn't blame myself. It was all reasoning to why I did these things. And it was important for me to understand why I did these things in my past, and to understand why I did them, write them down on paper, and forgive myself for these things, and start to rebuild myself slowly, step by step. Started working with him, started working on site, grounding myself with, real humans, real stories, seeing my friends again, starting to enjoy football at Met Police again. And I had a conversation with Ollie Clements, one of my best friends, and I said, I'm only 28. What is stopping me from going back to playing full time, in Malaysia? And that was when I made the decision to call Scott, and I said, look, I'm coming back. And he said, it's difficult. You've had 2 years out. I said, listen, I'm coming back. Just give me an opportunity, get me a chance, and I'll prove you wrong. So yeah, he said, look, fly to Malaysia in November. So I flew out, done my quarantine, spoke to my old club, Johor, reluctant to take me back. Loads of clubs were reluctant to take me back. And it was sort of, again, like a kick in the teeth, like, fuck it, like, come on, what I've done for, the country, etc., for the national team, like, just give me a chance. I was probably in the best shape of my life as well. I'd worked so hard in this sort of 6-month period to be in the best shape to come back. I worked with Ollie and another PT back home. So I knew I was ready because I knew I had that fire in my belly again to have that opportunity. So yeah, it was good.